I'm Professor Diego, Professor in Muvizu Animation.
And I'm Clay, founder and creator of Digifactor's Animation.
In this episode of Animating with Muvizu, we will learn how Clay animates with keyframes.
That's right, but this time I'm going to be doing the showing. If that's okay with you, Professor?
Well, you're the boss, even though I am the host.
You'll be okay, Professor. You'll have plenty of episodes to yourself.
Well then, I'll just go and let you take it from here. I can help.
Okay, sure. He'll be fine, folks. He's a little upset. Like I said, he'll have plenty of episodes to himself. But right now, we need to get this tutorial on the show. So we're going to start off inside of a Muvizu world, where I already have a set up. So let's get going. Okay, everyone, here we are. We're inside of a Muvizu set, and as you can see that the set behind me, I have a set of like Wally from the other video, which I am making a video of him, full length, maybe about 5-10 minutes long. But anyway, I decided to use Wally for the tutorial, and as you can see that I have Wally. He's already in keyframe mode, all of his parts and pieces, and I have a little obstacle course that he's going to go over. So we're going to animate him riding up and down of those little hills right there, and then you can see we got some background right there. So yeah, you know what? I feel kind of bad. Maybe we should just let Professor Diego join us. I don't think I can really do it without him. After all, this is his show. We could at least, let him be in it for this part too. He can watch. Anyway, Professor.
Oh, hey there.
Come on out, man. I can't do this without you. Maybe just come on out. Come on, man. Hey, Professor. Look, I'm sorry about that. I feel bad. I decided to go ahead and let you be in this part too. So, I mean, if I need your help, I'll let you help me, or any suggestions, okay? So I'm sorry about that. This is your show, so just sit by me and we'll do this together, okay? All right. So for the rest of you, so just watch what I do and pay attention, okay? And then you'll notice that every little move I make or change I do or things I add, I save my progress. I mean, because the good thing to do is to save your progress as you go, so you don't, if something happens in Muvizu, it crashes, then all you have to do is just load it back up and continue to where you left off. So anyway, gonna switch views, and we're gonna see nothing but Muvizu. You won't see me.
If you don't mind,
Professor
I would
Diego.
like to stand in the set as you show the tutorial.
Sure, I mean, I guess that'll be alright. He can come out there and stand there and watch, I guess. Sure, that's fine, Diego. That's fine. Okay, so let's get started, and we'll learn how to animate with keyframe. Okay, now we're inside of Muvizu, and we're in the set for the Wally tutorial. And like I said, I'm going to animate Wally using the keyframes. He's going to climb up and over each of those hills. So we're going to go ahead and get started, and we're going to start
Don't forget to mention the 2 zones before you animate, Clay.
Thanks, Professor. If you remember in the last episode, we learned how to put our sets together, put objects together using the keyframe. And we did that by using 2 zones, safe zone and animating zone. So this applies, the same thing applies for Wally here. And I'll tell you why. Because Wally is what I call an object character. Now, as you know, Muvizu will not let you import rig characters that are already animated. So you have to import the character, the model of your character, into Muvizu. And if it's just one whole character, a model of one whole character, and you try to animate it, you're just going to animate the whole daggum thing. Okay, so no, so you end up having to split your models into pieces, and then import each piece as one object, and then you're going to have to put them together using the keyframe. So yeah, just like we did when we learned how to put sets together with the keyframe. So it pretty much is the same way. Good thinking. I'm glad you remember that.
Don't mention it.
Okay, and
I am the professor, you know.
let me show you what I'm talking about. Let's get closer to Wally here. Okay, like I said, he is what I call an object character because he's made up of several objects. Let me show you. If I click on the head, I can animate or move the head up and down, left and right. And you notice that both neck and head can be moved. Okay, same thing as the arms and hands. Alright, and the wheels and the body. Okay, you can do it if you really want the realistic movement and have every joint, part, or whatever of your characters to move. Then you can have like the head as one object by itself. The neck you can like into two objects and put them together like so, and they can bend them back and forth like that. And then you can have the hands where you can move them like this and move the hands like that, and then extend the arms. You know, you can do that. But that's the advanced way. So I'm doing it this way because it's a lot less pieces to animate and a lot less keyframes. And I do this because there's a lot of beginners out there that just got Muvizu probably and hadn't had it that long and looking for tutorials to help them learn how to animate. Well, this is what I'm trying to do. So I'm keeping it simple. Maybe later on down the line we'll learn how to animate I call it the advanced way, where you have to use more pieces of your models to animate to make it look more realistic movement. You know, now in the Wally video that I'm making, I did do that, but this time I'm not. So I made this Wally especially for this tutorial. Okay, now everything is, like I said, it's already in the keyframe. Wally, all of his parts are already in the keyframe. So let me bring up the keyframe here and I'll show you. Now you can see I've already created my safe zone, which is the empty area with the 2 cue points in front of the timeline here. Now inside that cue point is where I have all the keyframes for Wally. Let me show you. If I click on his head, you'll see a keyframe right there, right before the 0 in that safe zone. Okay, same thing for the body, the arms, and the head. That is where Wally is put together at. So that safe zone with them 2 cue points letting us know we don't want to animate in that part. So if we're going to animate, we have to move our slider into the animating zone, which is in the red timeline. So yeah, there it is. So now with all that explained, we're going to go ahead and make our first animation with the keyframe here. But do keep in mind, you don't want to make your timelines for your keyframes too long, because if you do, after you go back and play it, you'll notice all the little pieces that you've animated. Some of them will get past each other, some of them will fall behind from each other, and you don't want to do that. So it's best to keep your animations kind of close together as possible, so that doesn't happen. And not only that, then you'll get more of a realistic movement. Okay, so let me demonstrate. Let's start with the wheels first. I'm going to click on the wheels. Alright, and like I said, I already got my keyframe, my slider in the beginning of the animating zone, And what we're going to do is we're going to add a cue point right where the slider is, indicating our starting point for animation within the animating zone. Okay, so now let's go over here and we're going to right click on the wheels and we're going to click on movement. Okay, now we're going to add a keyframe to start our movement of the wheels. Okay, now let's take that slider and remember what I said, don't make it too long. We want to kind of keep it short and simple. Alright, we don't want Wally moving too fast, too slow, you know. So, so this helps. So we're going to move it to the next mark, which I say 25, and we're going to add our cue point. And the reason why I say add the cue points, because once you animate one piece, well, you want all the other pieces to be together. You want them to move at the same time. So this is what the cue points help us with. Okay. So, and then we're going to add our last keyframe. This is the end keyframe of the first part of this animation. Okay. So now we got that done. Alright, now when I animate, I usually like to be in the front of my object character. Okay. And another thing I like to do is the camera view. I like to keep that open, kind of enlarge it to help me. Because whenever I'm animating from the front, I'll be able to see what I'm doing on the side. Reason why is if I animate from the side, you never know when you're going to move Wally or whatever you're animating to the left or to the right. It's hard to tell when you're animating from the side. So if you're doing it from the front and then using the camera view, it will help you, and you'll be able to keep it all straight, stuff like that, and you'll be able to see what you're really doing here when you can't see it. I'm trying to here, okay, because the heel's in the way. So that camera view will help us. So now that we got our keyframes in place for our wheel, let's grab our wheels and move it. Now keep an eye on the camera view there, that way you can see how close you get to that heel. We're going to move it to the heel. Now if you notice the keyframe track, that's what I call it, the keyframe track here. See how straight it is. We don't want kinks or anything like that in it. So if we get any kinks, it'll be kind of, you'll get a kind of glitch in your animation if you do. So you don't want no kind of glitches or nothing like that. So try to keep it as straight as possible. Alright? Especially when you get curves. You want smooth curves. Yeah. You want smooth curves when you do that. Okay. So now we got our keyframes into place. We just made our first movement with the wheels. Now the next thing we're going to do is we want the wheels to be tilted, and then we're going to move it up, and then it's going to go over that heel, and then we're going to move it like that, and it's going to be on top of that heel. So now let's move our slider just a couple, well, maybe one notch after that last keyframe. Now we're not going to add a cue point. This is what I call in between keyframes. Okay, this helps us with smaller movements in our animation. So, okay, now we're going to add a keyframe right there, and then we're going to take our wheels and we're going to kind of like tilt them up, lift up on it, tilt it, about like that, and then we're going to bring it closer to that heel, like that. Okay? Now, and see how straight it is right here? We're going to, of course, you'll see it curving up like that. That's because we moved it up and we angled the wheels to where they're moving upward. So let's play that back. We'll move the slider back in the timeline, and you'll see it. It looks like it's actually starting to climb. Okay, so let me do that. And you see how it's starting to climb up and over the hill. That is how we want it. That's the way we want it to look. So now, let's move another notch right after that last keyframe we just placed, and then add another keyframe. Again, these are in between keyframes. This is what I call them. Okay, now let's grab our wheels. Make sure we keep an eye on our camera view and in the front of us. That way we can better see what we're doing. So let's lift the wheels up, bring them over like that, and let's kind of like angle them a little bit forward now, and then place it right on that part of that hill. Okay. Now let's play that back by moving the slider back and forth. So yeah, see now we're getting that climbing motion. Up and over, like so. Now let's complete that climb. Again, move your slider another notch, add a keyframe, and then let's lift up the wheels, slant them straight, horizontal, about like that, and then let's place them on top of that hill, like so. Okay, now slide the slider back and forth and see it go. There we go, that looks good. Now he's on top of that hill. Well, the wheel is. Now it's time to do the same thing for the body, arms, and head. So let's click on the body. Now move that slider back to the first cue point, and let's add our beginning keyframe for that cue point. Now let's slide back to that last cue point and add our ending keyframe for that. Okay, now let's move the body back up over the wheels like so. And he's getting to the point to where he's fixing to climb that wheel. So we want to kind of start slanting the body a little bit, like so. Okay, now let's play that back by sliding the slider back. Here we go. Now remember, we're getting past that last cue point, so the wheels is going to keep moving because we didn't add the other keyframes to the body yet. Okay, now let's go to that next mark on that next mark on the timeline. Sorry, and let's add that keyframe. Okay, now let's lift up the body. Let's tilt it and put it back over the legs like so. We gotta make it a little even there, like so. Now let's see how that looks. That looks pretty good. Now let's keep going to the next mark. Let's add that keyframe. Let's move them back over, up, over, up, and let's kind of like start tilting this body up a little bit, like so. Now, if you would have made these keys a little bit further apart, not only will they move slower, you'll start getting pieces moving quicker than the other one and getting ahead of them. We don't want to do that. By doing it this way, they all stay together. Yeah. So, let's see how that looks. Looks pretty good. So now let's go to the next mark. If you check the little marks there, this is what I'm going by. In between the 25s and 50s, I'm going in between those. So we're gonna add a keyframe for that one. Now let's move that body. Kind of tilt it a little bit, like so. And that completes the climb for the body as well. So now let's play that back and see how that looks. It looks good. Now it's time for the hands. Another thing I need to remind you of. When you animate one piece of an object, of your objects, of your object character, okay, and you click on another part of the object character, you might want to move the slider back, okay, move the slider back, and then click on the other part. Okay. The reason why is if you stay clicked on the body and then you move back to that first cue point and then click on the other part and then try to add a keyframe, you'd notice that the add keyframe button isn't highlighted. So it's best to just move it off that cue point and then select the other part and then move it back to that first cue point and add your keyframe. Okay, now, yeah. So, again, we just go to that last cue point, and then we'll add that ending keyframe. Okay, and then we'll drag the arms, like so. Now let's straighten the arms up a little bit. Keep them straight. Alright, now let's kind of like tilt his arms upward like so. Now let's see how that looks. There we go. That looks good. Now we're getting past that last keyframe. That's why the arms stopped and the body and the wheels kept going, because we haven't added that keyframe for them arms yet. So now let's do that. Just go to that next point, that next mark, add our keyframe, and then let's lift up on the arms, okay, like so, and then tilt them up a little bit, like that. Let's bring them down a little bit, like so. We'll just kind of like put them in the center, like that. Okay, now let's slide our slider back and forth and see how that looks. Looks pretty good. Now we have to add our other keyframe for that next mark. Right there. And then let's add that keyframe. Move our arms forward, up. Keep putting it back in the position that he had it. And then make sure he's all centered. Like so. And then let's go ahead and move to that next mark and finish the climb. Okay? Add that keyframe. And then let's move the arms forward. Bring them down. Lift them up like that. Bring them forward a little bit. And then just get in the front of them. Make sure they're centered, which they are. So now that completes the climb for the body. So now we got the wheels, the body, and the arms all animated, climbing up and over the hill, like so. Now it's time for the head. Now click on the head, and then let's move it back to the first cue point. Okay. Now, if you feel like you want to go ahead and add cue points for every keyframe, feel free. I mean, it will still work. It would all work the same way. But a lot of times you don't have to do that. The only time you really have to do that if you keep them far apart and your pieces start moving ahead of each other. And then you'll have to go in between keyframes and add more in between keyframes to line them all back up to where they all start moving together again. That's just a lot of work. That's why I'm telling you to do it like this. Okay, less work. Okay, all right, especially for beginners. And then when you get real good at it and everything, then you can start doing it that way. It's up to you. Okay, so now we got the head positioned into the first, well, not the head. We got the, for the head, we got the slider positioned back on that first cue point. So let's add our beginning keyframe for the head, and then go ahead and move back to that last cue point and add our keyframe. So let's move the head forward, like so, and then kind of tilt it up a little bit, like that. Now let's see. Move the slider back and forth to check it. So again, the head stays still. It stopped right there when we passed up that last keyframe. We gotta add the other keyframes to the head. So don't panic. Alright? Don't panic. You're not finished yet. So now, let's go to the next point or whatever and add a keyframe. Okay, now let's get over that where we can see them. Always position yourself to where you can see better what you're trying to animate. So let's tilt this head up. Okay, so we need to bring it down. Bring it. Yeah. Bring it up. Like so. Okay. Now, let's move it to the next point. Add our keyframe. Move the head forward. Bring it up. Now I want to bring it back a little bit like that. And it's kind of like, you know, you position the head to where you think it looks good, okay? About like that. Okay, let's see. Okay, that looks good. That. Now, let's get them over that hill. Let's get them on top of that hill. Okay, so we're going to add a keyframe. Hang them up. Okay, let's get in the front, back in the front of them. And let's put our head into position like we wanted. Let's straighten it up. Where he's looking forward again. Like so. Okay. Now let's slide it back. Okay, that looks good. Yeah. Okay, look.
Clay,
What's that?
you're forgetting to
Oh.
save.
Oh yeah, Professor there kind of reminded me that we need to save. It's always important to save everything you do. Every little make, and I almost forgot. If it wasn't for Professor there, I would have forgot. Yeah, so we're going to save, because that way if you save it, if your computer crashes or Muvizu crashes, then you'll still have where you left off. So let's go ahead and save. We'll save that. Now, if something happens, we won't start over. Good thinking, Mr. Professor. Okay, now we got them up and over the hill. Okay, so what we want to do is keep his head selected. Let's add a little movement to his head. He made it over that first hill. So let's kind of move the slider to the 50. The next, yeah, to the 50. And then we're going to add our keyframe. Now, let's kind of turn his head toward our camera, like so. Now, like I said, if you wanted to do the advanced way where you have all the little pieces, you can fix it where his head would just turn and not the neck. The neck will stay still, just the head will turn. Okay, like I said, you can do it that way. But it's best to start off small, easy, before you start into anything more difficult. Okay? You got to start off slow. Alright. Now let's slide the slider back. There we go. Okay. Now, let's turn his head back facing straight forward, and we'll make it 2 notches after that. Add our keyframe, and then just go ahead and turn his head back that way, forward. Let's see. Oh, we forgot to add the keyframe. Don't worry if you forgot to add the keyframe before you make the move. You can always add the keyframe after you move it. It will still take. Okay, so let's see. It'll still take. Okay, now that last keyframe will be the start for the first movement down the hill. So we're going to add a cue point to that. Okay, so that will mark our first movement back down the hill. Okay, so let's click on the wheels. All right, and then we're going to, well, you see how the add keyframe isn't highlighted? That's because we're still in the same position from the last piece that we animated. So we're going to have to kind of just move the slider back and forth, back on the key point, and you notice that it highlighted. So now we can add our keyframe. Okay. So we're going to move it to the 75, and we're going to add our ending cue point. Okay, for this downhill animation, and then we're going to add our keyframe. Okay, so now let's grab the wheels. So, and then tilt them downwards like this, like so. Alright, so we want to kind of like move the camera to where we can see it, what we're doing. Okay, so let's slide our slider back. So it's going down the hill. Okay, so here's what we did wrong, and I just realized it. It started going down before it moved close to the edge of the hill, before it started going down. No worries, just delete that last keyframe. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're just going to move it let's see, what did we do? Oh, that's the body, I'm sorry. Let me get back on the body here and delete that. Back on the wheel. So now sometimes I mess up. I'll forget what I'm doing. So now we're back on the wheels. So let's just slide the wheels to the end, or like the edge of the hill, like so. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, that looks good. Now let's go to that next notch, add a keyframe, and let's start tilting the wheels down like so. move it forward and kind of down a little bit like that. Like that. Now let's see. Yeah, it looks better. So let's go to the next notch. Add a keyframe. And then move it forward. Tilt it a little bit more. Move it forward. And then back on the heel. So it can be a little like that. Let's see. Oh yeah, nice. Nice movement. Okay, now let's go to the next notch, add another keyframe, and then let's move it down to like it's close to the ground like that. Okay. There we go. Now, go to the next notch, add our keyframe, bring it forward, straighten it up on the tilt, and bring it flat to the ground. Like so. And we'll bring it forward a little bit. Okay? And let's see what that looks like. Okay, now, you see how the wheel started going downward? We're still in the back of the wheel, just like in midair. Okay, what we need to do is, see, we need to bring this wheel back like so on that keyframe. Let's see what that looks like. Okay. Thing of it is, when it moves forward, see right there? Right about there. Okay. We need to add a keyframe in between those keyframes. Another in between. So let's kind of like straighten it up just a little bit. Bring it down like so. And let's see how that looks. That looks better. So sometimes when you see something that doesn't look right and you feel like you need to add a keyframe in between keyframes to fix it, go right ahead. Okay, just remember, we don't want them too far apart. Some parts will start lagging behind. You don't want to do that. Some of them may speed up ahead. So you don't want to do that. So just keep them all together like that. Okay. So now we got that up and over motion until we got to the ground. Okay. Time to save. So let's save so we don't lose our progress. Okay. Now, time for the body. So let's grab that body and let's go to that first key point right there. And then we're going to add a keyframe for the body. And then we're going to move the slider to that next cue point. And then we're going to add a keyframe. And we'll move that body forward. Okay. Let's do the same thing for the arms and hands. Go to that first cue point. Add a keyframe. And move it to that last cue point. And then we're going to add a keyframe. Now let's move the arms forward, keeping our eye on the camera view so we can see where we're lining up at, and in the front where we can see if it's in the center. Okay. Now, same thing for the head. Click that, and we already have our first keyframe for the head, so we're just going to add, we got to move the slider to highlight the add keyframe. So we're going to add that keyframe there, and then we're going to bring the head a little forward, like so. Let's see if we got it right on there. Now we'll bring it back a little bit like that. There we go. So let's add, oh wait a minute, let's not add nothing yet. Let's just slide this back and forward to see how it plays. Okay. Now, let's slide to the next notch and add a keyframe, and that's for the head. We need to do it for the body. So, add that keyframe. Bring that body forward, kind of tilt it a little bit like so. Given that motion, he's starting to move downward. Okay. Let's see. Radio. Alright. So now, let's go to the next notch. Bring the body forward. Tilt it down. So, let's see. Oh, forgot to add our keyframe. No worries, you can still add it even after making the movement. Okay, so now let's play that back, see how it looks. So he's climbing down the hill, and you notice how the body kind of moves up a little bit. Well, he's moving up because he doesn't want to drag his body on the hill when he starts moving down. So yeah, that's a good position. So alright, so now we're going to the next notch. Going to add that keyframe. Going to move it forward, bring it down, forward, bring it down, and I'm going to tilt it down a little bit. So now let's see. Well, that's good. Now to the next notch. Right there. Let's add that keyframe. We're going to straighten up the body. Move it forward. Go ahead and bring it down. So to where it's like right in the center of that body, like that. Now let's see. Yeah, there we go. Move it. Let's see if he does any more movement. Okay. You see, now we got the body and the wheels going up and over the hill until it reaches the other side. So now we got to do the arms and the head that way. So let's click on the arms first, and we'll move it. See. See how that looks. So on the arms, we're going to go ahead and go to the next notch because we already got a keyframe there. So all we have to do is go to the next notch and add a keyframe, and then drag the arms to the front, and we'll kind of like bring it down a little bit. And see, make sure we keep it straight. Like so. Okay. Alright, see? Okay, to the next notch. Our keyframe. Like that. To get them straight. Next key. Next notch. Keyframe. Gotta just move them forward and downward to get it to where it needs to be. So, okay. And then the last one for the arms. So let's add that keyframe. Pull the arms up, straighten them up. Move it forward like that. Like so. Now, let's see. There we go. Okay, now it's time for the head. Let's grab the head. And we already have our first two keyframes for the head. So we just need to add one for that next notch. So we'll move that head. Kind of point his head down a little bit like that. Let's go over here where we can see. So we want his head to be right on that bar like that. Okay. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, now you see that right there? Something tells us that we did something wrong. So, there's no worries, we can fix that. Just delete those next two keyframes. Okay? Let's see. There. So let's add our keyframe right there on that notch. Let's bring his head forward, tilt it a little bit as he's starting to go down. Let's see. Go to the next notch, add the keyframe. I'll tilt his head a little bit. Okay, let's see what that looks like. Okay. We gotta keep all the pieces together, especially when they're moving, or it wouldn't look right. So, okay, now let's go to the next notch, add our keyframe, kind of move it down, up. You can still move the camera, you can move your view, the world view, to where you can better see what you're doing if you want. But the camera view still helps too. So let's see how that looks. Ah, yeah, there we go. Okay, now let's go down. Add our keyframe. Move his head straight up like that, and then put it right back on that joint like that. Let's see. There we go. That looks good. He finishes his climb. He looks at us and he goes down to the other hill. Like so. Okay. Let's see.
Clay, you must save. You keep forgetting.
Okay. Right,
Save.
Professor. I need to save, don't I? So save it. So. Alright. Okay. Now for the other climb for the other heel. Okay, so now let's on that last keyframe, we're going to add a key point, and then we're going to go about that far right there, 2 notches past the 100, and we're going to add a keyframe there. I'll tell you what, let's bring it back to the 1 notch after the 100, like that. Okay, alright, because we don't want it wandering off ahead of everything else. So, okay, so now let's get in front of Wally. Let's move our camera where we can see what we're doing from this side. Better position it. Okay. Now, let's click on our wheels. Okay, and let's add, because you'll have to move the slider to highlight the add keyframe. So let's add a keyframe. Let's move, kind of turn this wheel a little bit like that. Let's move them to climb that other hill, like so. So let's see. Yep. Okay. Now, forward 1 notch, tilt the wheels up, move it to the hill like so. Let's see if I got that right. There we go. Like that. Alright. And then we forgot to add our keyframe. No worries. You can still add it. Now let's see. Alright. You're kind of digging into the ground a little bit, but you know, this is just a tutorial. I mean, you can just get on that part right there. Right in between here, you can add a keyframe and just lift up the wheel if you want. It's no biggie. Okay. And then, let's see. Let's go to the next notch. Add our keyframe. Bring the wheel up. Gotta slant it a little bit. And then touch that heel. Like so. Okay, let's see. Let's see that in motion. There we go. Next notch. Add keyframe. Up. Let's kind of like start tilting it forward where he's reaching the top. Alright. So now let's go to the next. Add a keyframe. Move it up a little bit. Go on the top. I'm kind of just straighten them up with the tilt forward. Like so. Now let's see. Oh yeah, that's good. That's good. So let's go to the next notch. Well, I take that back. He's already on the top of that hill, so he made his climb, and that's going to be his ending point right there. He made it on top of that last hill. He's good. So now let's do the body. Again, the body already has a keyframe because of the last time on that cue point. So all we have to do is just add a keyframe on that last cue point, and we'll move his body and we'll kind of turn it a little bit look at the camera view so you can see what's going on. So like that, like so. Okay. See what that looks like. Okay. So the next notch we're gonna add a keyframe. Tilt the body upward like that. And kind of like bring it in a little bit. I'm sorry, you probably can't see. So we'll like bring it in a little bit right there. See how that looks? Like that. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, that looks good. Now let's get them over that hill. Alright. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna save. Save it. Save everything you do. Okay. Right now, let's go to the next notch. Add a keyframe. Move the body forward. Tilt it upward. Forward. Well, yeah, just tilt it to where it's straight. About like that. Okay. See what that looks like. And to the last point. Now let's add a keyframe. Body forward. Straighten it up. Let's get where we can see it. And that's it. So now it's time for the arms. So let's grab arms and let's add our keyframe. Move the arms forward, straighten them up. Might have to turn them a little bit. Get over here, let's make sure we got them centered like that. See how that looks. There we go. Okay, next notch. And make sure we got it centered. Tell you what, let's bring them down a little bit. About like that. Make sure we got them straight and centered. Okay, okay, let's see. Okay, next notch. Add a keyframe. Bring it forward and up. Make sure we got them centered. About like that. Next notch. Add your keyframe. Move them up, forward, and then tilt a little bit. Make sure he's centered. Like that. Now the last notch. Add our keyframe and go forward, lift it up, and then straighten them out. Let's make sure we got them centered. There we go. Okay, now for the camera, I have to move that up a little bit or we can see what we're doing with the head. So now click on the head, go to that last key point, because we already have a keyframe on that first key point right here. So because of the last time we added a keyframe part. So all we have to do is continue. Alright, so add a keyframe. Okay. Bring that head forward. Straighten it up a little bit. Okay, let's see what that looks like. Looks good. Okay, next notch. I'll bring it forward. Sometimes you have to position your worldview where you can see better. Okay. Next notch. Keyframe. Like that. It's already centered. Okay. Okay, next notch. He's up and over. Keyframe. Bring him up. Kinda center him a little bit. Getting sleepy, Professor? Am I boring you? Clay, you wanted this job.
Clay, you must save. You keep forgetting.
Okay, I want to save.
Save.
You're right. I want to save. Don't forget to save. Alright. Okay. We got that. Now it's time for the last notch. Add a keyframe. Straighten it up. Like so. Okay. Hey, he's going up and over. Alright. So, we'll add a keyframe. Now, sometimes whenever you want a different movement after making a forward move or anything like that, or a turn, and you want it to turn it the other way, and you don't want it to move and turn at the same time unless you want him to move and turn while he's, like he's looking around while he's moving, but he's stopped. So we want it to kind of like turn his head after he stops. So in order to do that, at the last one there, we're going to move it to notch. We're going to add a keyframe. Okay, and then we're going to move it again. And then we're going to add another keyframe. And let's kind of like, whoops, I don't want to do that. Move this further out like this. Right about there. Now we're going to move it like 2 notches. We're going to add a keyframe, and then we're going to turn his head like so. Let's see. See that? He stopped. Okay. Now, we're going to click on his arms. Okay. And right here, we're going to add a keyframe. Okay, and then we're going to add 2 more keyframes. So you want him to lift his arms up after he turns his head out, looking at you at the camera. I mean, it's up to you how you want to do it, but I'm doing it this way. So if I want to have his hand turned before I move his arms, then I did it the way I showed you. So if you want his arms to move up after he turned his head, you'll add that keyframe, then another keyframe, and then another keyframe, and then you're going to move the arms. So we'll add a keyframe, and then we'll move those arms like that. Let's see. There we go. Okay, now that's it. He made it up and over on top of the last hill. So he's done doing his thing. Now the next thing we want to do, we want the camera to follow him. So let's go all the way to the beginning. Okay, and you notice the camera is not on him anymore. So let's take the camera. We'll move the camera at the starting position, like so. Let's kind of like have it like this. See? And this is where the two backdrops I got come in handy. The two backdrops. This is where they come in handy at. So, and you really don't even have to do anything to them. So, okay. Now we got the camera in the position that we want it. Now we got to put the camera in keyframe mode. So we'll right click on the camera, direct, and then movement. Like the others, he just put it in keyframe, then back to direct, and we're going to add a keyframe to that. So now we're just going to move the camera to each cue point. So that one, keyframe. It's kind of like, let's back it up a little bit. About like that. Let's see. Now the camera will keep up with them. So now let's go to the next cue point. Now he's up and over. So it's kind of like about like that. Okay, now let's see. Oh, add that keyframe. I forgot. No worries, you can do it afterwards. Now let's see. Okay, now let's see. Okay, we move them again. Kind of turn your camera a little bit like that. Okay, and then to the next cue point. Okay. Next one. Now we don't have any cue points after that, so we gotta just keep it on the robot. Okay. Okay, now let's watch that. Well, let me turn this off. Now, so let's just watch our animation we just made with Wally. here we go. Moving up and over that first one. You got it. Okay, that's how I animate with keyframes, and I hope this helps you do the same thing. Just remember, you don't want to make long spaces for your animation for your keyframes, because if you make them too far apart, like I said, some parts would get ahead of the other ones or fall back behind of the other ones, and then you would probably have to go back and add keyframes to catch them up. And sometimes that kind of like puts kinks and stuff like that into your track. I will teach you more about that, and well, Diego here will teach you more. I know. We'll teach you more about fixing the keyframes and basically about the keyframe track. And he'll teach you more about that. But just remember, don't make your keyframes too far apart. Don't make the area that you're going to animate too long, because you'll get that problem with pieces running ahead of each other and stuff like that. You just don't want to do that. Anyway, well, Mr. Diego, that's all I got. That's all I got right now. I'm gonna leave the other episodes up to you until I'm ready to come back again, and then it's all up to you. I appreciate you letting me come on tonight.
No problem, Clay. You're pretty badass.
You're pretty good too. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope this helped you out as much as I enjoyed making this for you. I hope you pretty much understand how I did things. Just how I did the cue points to mark my start and my finish, and then in between cue points or keyframes, how I did them to give the illusions of up and down and over, like this. So, and the motion of the head. So the next time I come back, maybe I'll decide to go ahead and do the advanced way of animating every little piece separately to make it more realistic movement. Keep an eye on the Wall-E video, or keep an eye out for the Wall-E video that I'm creating, because I'm pretty much doing it that way. So, thank you. I hope y'all enjoyed, and y'all have a blessed night. And you too, Professor Diego.
You'll have a blessed one too,
Well,
Clay.
thank you. So long.